Thank you for all being out here today. I've been a WordPress user since 2008. So I was hoping it would be at 20, but it's not 20, and I couldn't figure out if it was 17 or 18. But it's a real honor and pleasure to be out here with you. I would have never thought I'd be talking at a WordCamp, so there we are. I just used WordPress. That was cool. So I'm going to talk today about how and why, with the exclamation point, Google search keeps evolving. And we're going to begin, if you don't mind, with a little bit of just a refresher on how search works. To understand where we're going is helpful to understand where we're at. I think a lot of you are familiar. We crawl the web to find content. We get content in lots of things. We also take in feeds, and we have partnerships and all sorts of things. But the bulk of what we do is crawling the web, and it's the open web. And that's one of the things, as I'll get into in this talk, is why the open web is really important to us. At the very basic level, we don't function without it. We as a company don't function without it. Our role in trying to help people locate and understand information doesn't do well if there's no open web. So we really want the open web to be doing well, because that is one of these pillars of how we operate. And then we index the content that we find. And you can think of this as like if you've had a big book, and sometimes, it's a really academic book, and in the back there's an index, and you can find out who was mentioned or what was said on what particular page. So our book, it's like billions of pages. I think we have one stat that it would go to the moon 12 times and back, all the pages that we understand from across the web. And we can then very quickly understand, oh, this was mentioned here, this was mentioned there. And so when someone does a search, we go back and say, great, we found 100 million pages that are all mentioning the word travel. And then we throw them at you, and you go, that was great. But of course you don't want to do that. You want to have some kind of way of understanding what seems to be most relevant, and that's where we rank the content. And we use search algorithms and systems to try to understand, well, what seems to be the most relevant information to show when you have all these pages that from a word basis just match, but what's going to be most useful. So there's not one single ranking system. Even in the days when people would hear, oh, Google uses PageRank, they'd say that's the PageRank system that ranks all the stuff. That was just one of many, many different kinds of systems that we use. So there's not one giant ranking system that takes care of everything. In fact, we have many, many different systems, things that detect spam. We try to understand if content is fresh. We try to understand if content is related to reviewing things. We have acronyms like BERT and MUM that talk to machine learning systems that we have, as well as RankBrain. We have systems that are designed, like if there's a crisis going on, if there's a wildfire, and we know you're in the area, we try to make sure we're showing information and show a different display to say, hey, there's a fire going on. And then not only do we have multiple systems that are all used to try to rank content, but we have hundreds of signals that are used by those individual ranking systems in different ways. And signals are information that tells us something about content. Sometimes those signals make sense to human beings, and sometimes they don't, but they correlate with things that we find very useful. So if we're ranking web pages, looking at, did the word appear on the page is a signal. Where did the word appear on the page? Did the word appear often on the page? Did the word appear too often on the page? These are all kinds of different signals that you measure up. Did the word appear in a certain passage on the page, and so on? As opposed to when you're looking at images, maybe you're trying to understand the text around the image that describes what's going on and helps you learn more there. When you're dealing with things like we want to rank content for a news-related query, freshness becomes much more important, right? Usually there's something that's newsy and you want to have fresh content, so we need to pay a lot more attention to that than we would do with a typical web search. So it's a different kind of signal. With local, location comes into place, both the location of the person searching and the location of the content itself, or where we think it's related to. And that's why if you're searching for, I don't know, donuts up here in Portland, you're going to get a completely different thing for donuts, hopefully, than you would get, and I've eaten most of the donuts already, sorry, I do like voodoo donuts. I went back and when I got one, and then I went back the afternoon and got two more, and that was my dinner. And it was good, sorry, a little detour, I really like donuts. But if I was searching for donuts, I want to know places here in Portland to go get them. I don't want to be told, oh, here's some great donut shops in Seattle. That's not really helpful to me. It's 3 hours away, so that's important. So this is why when you do these searches, we're looking at all these different kinds of signals, all these different ranking systems, and so on. Now, that's how we kind of basic structure of how we work. But now I want to talk about some of the challenges that come along that sometimes don't maybe make sense. First, 15% of searches are new every day. And like when I first heard that stat, I thought, that can't possibly be right. How can you have 15% of the things that Google handles on a daily basis be completely new? And then Taylor Swift got engaged. So, and now you understand that you can have something that happens and you get entirely new queries that you would have never thought of before. I mean, look, I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, but even I know that she was gonna get engaged at some point. But then she actually did it, and then and there's some guy that she's marrying, I don't know, apparently he's something. But anyway, so there are a lot of queries that immediately happen, like where will it be? When will it happen? What was the ring? Where was the picture? Like in the instant. Or if you take any kind of a sporting event and someone, does something amazing that nobody's seen or come to the end and people are immediately searching like, did that ever happen before in that moment? And then they expect us to come back and say, here's a response. And they don't want excuses like, dude, this just happened like 2 seconds ago, right? So it's like we will go through and try to understand what's fresh content and try to understand how to connect people with it. And there's just all sorts of queries that change. And then words are really complicated. You think words are easy, but no, like someone is searching for how to change the light bulb, but the person is saying no, how to replace it on the instructions that they have for what I assume is a very complicated thing that has light bulbs. Actually, I just installed one of these and put it in the bathroom. Like, oh, it has to have thin light bulbs. So I did actually go to some instructions. How do I change foreign currency? And then the instructions and the guidance that you're looking for was written about how to exchange currency. Or how do I adjust the brightness of my laptop? And somebody's saying, how do I change it? And so what people are writing and what people are searching for often don't exactly match. You don't need to worry about all this, by the way, because we have lots of systems that are designed to connect these things together, because people who create content aren't sitting around thinking about this. We don't want you to have to write a sentence that says how to replace, change, exchange, or adjust light bulb. That's not how it works. So, and then understanding words in context is important. It's not just that search engines had to evolve and deal with the fact that words themselves can be different meanings, but words in relation to the other words in a sentence have different meanings. So someone searches for, can you get medicine for someone pharmacy? Like, this was an example we had before we made a change a few years ago. We kind of toss out the words that don't mean a lot. Like we know, well, medicine's important, pharmacy's important, get's important. So then the search engine will be like, oh yeah, you're looking for how to get medicine at a pharmacy. Yeah, you can get medicine. And it's like, no. How do I get prescription for someone else? Can I do that? So understanding that all those words together have a different meaning was important, and we developed our systems to understand those kinds of meaning and get smarter with it. And then people don't even know how to search for what they're looking for. This is a real search. You can actually do it. And you look and you go, oh, I get it. Yeah, I can see why, right? So anyway, but they don't know, but they want us to get them to the right information, and how do we make that happen? And so we, try to figure those sorts of things out. So searching works great for billions of searches. I think many of you are using Google, and most of the time you're probably finding what you're looking for and you're perfectly happy. This was great. Of course, when it doesn't work, then you're like, "Arr!" And I'm "Arr!" And then I will go back to people at Google, I'm like, "Arr!" And they go, "Arr!" And there's a lot of erring going on with that. But most of the time it's working great. But we do want to know, how do we fix the errors? So, that's the technical term. One thing is we're constantly evaluating and updating how the systems work. So we run a lot of tests. These are numbers from 2023. They're not that different from last year. We just haven't compiled them all together. But it's a lot of tests. We had almost 1 million, 700,000 tests that went on, right? And then we do sometimes these side-by-side experiments. We will do things like have a new system, a ranking system that we think will work, one of these systems, and then we will have actual human beings look through and say, look, here's the search results for this with the existing system, and here are the search results for this with the new system, and you go through and tell us what you think about each of these results and how it feels. Now that doesn't cause them to say, oh, I didn't like that result, make sure that never happens again. That's not how it works. They don't directly go into our ranking systems. It's just like if you cooked a meal and you said to someone in a restaurant, now can you rate it? How was it? They don't go into the kitchen and say, let me show you how to do it. You just take the feedback and figure out how to improve. So this allows us to understand, well, yeah, actually these results seem to be better, and this system overall seems like it's a good thing that we can release. Or, no, it looks like it made a terrible job. Don't release that. We'll have a lot more errors going on. So, and we do live experiments. If you've ever been searching and you go, what is this weird thing? We probably are testing something new to understand how people are interacting with it live. And in the end, we may do up to 5,000 launches a year. Or what you may know them as updates. And you may know some, and I'll get to this, some big updates and smaller updates. But it's very equivalent to your phone. Your phone is doing updates and it's always never finishing it for me. It's I tried to do it, but you were asleep and then it didn't work. Anyway, your phone may do these little it's like if you had a phone and it's updating itself 5,000 times a year, and most of the time you don't even notice it. And it's just hopefully making incremental things that improve stuff. But occasionally, we have larger updates. And we tell people about that, not to panic you or get you upset or get you worried. And typically, you don't need to worry about these things. But we know that sometimes we have some updates that might be much more noticeable. And we want people to understand, especially so they understand what to do if it's impacting them, or that there's maybe nothing that they necessarily need to be doing. We are actually having a spam update right now. So that's designed to reduce spam in our search results. And one of the reasons we give notification about that is because if you were, and none of you are, and I doubt this is going to impact any of you, but if you were doing something particularly spammy and suddenly you noticed a traffic change happened right after we released a spam update, you might then understand oh yeah, that was, I guess I shouldn't be doing those behaviors anymore, and then hopefully you would not do that, and maybe you improve. Or potentially you might see a traffic increase and not wonder what happened? Why did I get more traffic? And it could be that we just did a better job at addressing spam so that better content's doing well, and you didn't do anything at all. We just hopefully got a bit better. One of the big things that we tend to do are what we call our core ranking updates. We had one about a month ago, I think. Typically, this is just a general thing that we do to try to improve the overall ranking systems across a lot of stuff. Sometimes results can change a bit. Sometimes people go up, sometimes they go down. Most people aren't going to notice a difference. It's never really about if you were to change and go down during that, well, we didn't like your content anymore. It's more as if, say, you had to make a list of the top 100 movies in 2015, and so you make them, and now you're asked to make the list of the top 100 movies in 2025, and there's been some new movies. And you might reevaluate some of the older movies and say, it wasn't so good in relation to the ones before. Still a good movie, I'm just not going to put it at number 6, it's going to go to number 13. And, and this new movie that's new, that's amazing, and it kind of comes up. All the movies are great movies. I mean, be a top 100 movie, that is great. It's just that the rankings can change a little bit with it from there because we're just trying to make things a little more relevant, we think, overall. All right, so after we launch or after we do an update, the whole process repeats. We go out, we test again, we evaluate, we take in feedback that we hear, and then we try to figure out how to improve things going forward with the next cycle from there. So now we get to the exciting thing about how search is evolving. Anybody remember searching like this? For those that you don't, remember, here's how it worked. You got a computer and you turned it on, and then you went and you got your coffee, and you came back and it had booted up at that point. And then you logged into a thing that was called AOL. You probably don't remember it, but it was there, and hopefully you ignored it at that point and just used it for the internet connection. And then you got onto the web and you loaded up pages that took a long time to load. And then when they got there, and if you wanted to search for something, that was when you did your search. And you would think, oh yeah, I wanted to look this up, or I want to look that up. Or maybe you were doing it at work because they maybe had better speed, like super fast, 128K. And you were out there doing that, and then it was done. You were not sitting on the couch going, I wish to search for something, which is what we do now, right? Now you're like, who is that actor? Look it up for me. That's my wife. No. Or it's me going back to her. You look it up. Just yell at the thing. It'll tell us, who's that actor? You want to open the window shades? No. Who's the actor? Anyway, so, but this was a huge revolution. Huge. And we take it for granted now. But it was a huge revolution, and it was a big revolution both for us as a company, for search in general, and for people who produce content. We had to understand, well, how do we make sure people can actually access content in a quick way, do searches mobile, whatever, and how do we ensure that we're getting to them the stuff that isn't frustrating them, because then they're on their phones and they're doing this and they're trying to do that and trying to understand, and they don't even have that at some cases. And as people who are producing content, like today, things like responsive and so on, that's just, oh yeah, of course it just works, right? And you're used to going to pages that, when you ever encounter a page that doesn't understand us on a mobile device, don't you want to scream? And you're like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. It's like discovering an 8-track tape. And if you don't remember those, I've shared some things about those in the past on my social, but anyway. Why can't I bought an 8-track recently, by the way, a little detour, because I was like nostalgic, and my wife had never seen one because she's not American, and they didn't have them. They didn't have that technology. And she's like, well, how do I fast forward? And I was like, you don't fast forward an 8-track tape, or how do I rewind? No. Anyway. So this was a big revolution. Nobody knew how it went, but I think collectively we all successfully navigated into a 24/7 mobile searching, buzzword world. And we have to continue to evolve that way because people's expectations keep changing. They're like, well, this search was amazing, but I want to do more amazing things with it. And so we've been rolling out different things that we think help people do stuff. Like, I want to know what these sunglasses are, and I can buy them. It's like, well, why don't you just circle them? Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Well, then now you can, okay? Or like, what is this bug? What is this thing? What's going on here? We'll take a picture of it, and then you should send it to us, and then we'll just tell you this is what it is. Okay, those are roses. Or this one I like is called multimodal, which I hate the term because it never makes much sense to me. But the idea is like, you can submit a video and say, what's going on with this? This is another thing my son got, like a record player, and he called us up. He's like, how do I skip a song? You're like, okay, there's these grooves, and look for the big groove. But in that video, someone's like trying to put the tone arm, that's how we used to play music, and it's a needle, and it's bouncing back, and they don't understand what's going on. They just know it's not working. So it's like, well, you can do this. You can all do this if you sign up for our experiment. You can use the Google app, and you take a video and you say, what's going on? And then it can actually see the video, understand the video, and then shift to giving you a written response, hence the multimodal, 2 different modes. I gave you a video, and it didn't come back and say, well, here's a cool video. And it's like, no, I want to know what's going on. I was doing this yesterday. I saw these geese eating, and I was like, are they eating the grass, or are they just amazing at getting between the and like, so I shot a video. I'm like, what are they eating? And it's like, they're eating grass. You're an idiot. You can see it right there. Anyway. Then some woman asked me if they were allowed to go on the grass with the geese. And I'm like, first of all, geese will break your arm. That's urban myth out of the UK, I was told, and my mother-in-law believes it. So, and secondly, they're on the grass, so why shouldn't you be on the grass? They don't get more rights than you. Anyway, so meanwhile, you have new people coming in, right? And new people, especially if you are a new person or a young person. Hi, I'm an old person. It's really nice to meet you. They have been brought up in a world where you're either doing this, or you're doing this, or you're doing this. And that's the way it goes. And that's the way it works. Not like, I'm on my desktop. And that's what they want to have. So, and it's a lot of video. So like, I need video content. I want short video to explain things to me in the same way that I am like, I don't want short video to explain things to me. I would just rather read it. I can read it faster than the short video. You can keep the entertainment. We're 2 different people, and that's perfectly fine. That's the way things should be. But that's why you'll see in some cases we may show more short video, right? And especially we're trying to use with personalization to understand like, oh, you like short video, and we'll get more of that. Or people like to hear what other people have to say. Like, it's cool. Like, I want to read the expert content, totally fine. I want to know how my HVAC system might work or whatever it is. But I would really like to see what other people have to say of it as well. And so we're trying to show more experiential content, both what people are maybe saying or sharing on social, as well as what you may find out on forums and so on. Because these are the kinds of expectations that people are coming in, both new and old, and you try to make sure that search evolves to meet those. And that brings me into the AI overviews, which is probably the biggest evolution that most of you have probably seen in our search results. These are not things we're doing because we just said, oh, let's just do this. Let's see what happens out of the... It's like what's happening is that AI is enabling these new ways to seek information. And people are developing expectations to want to get it presented in a different way. And it can be difficult because if you've been raised in a blue link world, you might think, well, I just prefer the blue links. And certainly I like blue links, and sometimes I like, and I'll get back to this a bit more for you. But other people are growing and experiencing different kinds of products going, this is like a conversational way. This is the way it should have always been, or for some people and so on. So we're trying to understand how do we enable this in a way that helps everybody and helps keep all the best things that are out there. And that's what the overviews are designed to do. They're designed to try to help you have this different kind of experience that's growing that people are liking. And I'll get to that with it from there. And also, and this is important in terms of the open web, like to be this sort of jumping off point to explore more. They're not at all. It's just like, oh, you did a search, here it is. You don't need to go anymore. No need to click. Like, there are link boxes that are on display by default. We have link anchors within it that go in different places. We have carousels and other displays that keep evolving because part of this is people want to explore more with it from there. They like getting this overview, but then they also want to go off and learn more with it from there. Ignore all those boxes for a minute. Just pretend they're not there. I'm going to talk about query fan out, and I'm going to do it now. So someone searches for e-bikes in red for a 5-mile commute with hills. And then maybe you did that kind of search, this big, long, giant search. And then you get one of these AI overviews, and you go, well, how come the things in the AI overview are different than the things in the blue links? And that's understandable confusion, which we tried to clear up by talking about fan out. And the idea is that when you do that kind of long query, using AI and some of our other systems, we kind of break it up into a whole bunch of other queries that are all related. And then we're going through and we're looking, bringing back results from all these kinds of different things. We've fanned out, we pulled it all back, and then it's like a smart human being who's reading through it all and going, great, I understand now more about what's related on this entire subject, and I'm going to be able to give you sort of this quick summary, and I'm also going to be able to give you things that we think are relevant to different parts to it in a way that ordinary search really couldn't do. And that's why you get this wider set of results that it's working with, and that's why you get a more diverse set of links that we are showing, and they can be different than the blue links, although the blue links will still be there. So this is what we're finding from our research when we understand how people are using the AI overviews. So it is positive. And like people who are young especially like them. We're finding that people are searching more. So when we have them, people are doing more searches, especially in our bigger markets, and those like in the US and in India, like a 10% increase. People are doing new and complex queries, which I think is the really exciting part about this too. There was, and I'll come back and explain more, but there was you would do your searches, and there was a time people were like, well, you can only search at certain words, and you have to use these operators, and you can only do it now where you confuse the search engine. Mustn't confuse the search engine, don't taunt it, and never stare it in the eyes. So it's like now they're like, hey, search engine, what's going on? I was doing that. It's like, cool. Like, you're feeling more confident that you can just talk to it about all sorts of things and get these more responses coming back. And then we're finding that people overall are visiting a wider set of sites than they had before, because when we do the fan out and you get a broader set of links, that means there's a broader set of sites that are potentially being surfaced that people are discovering that maybe they hadn't discovered before. And this, I think, especially is important, they're more engaged. And people are like, what do you mean by they're more engaged? Well, we don't know, we don't know if they're like Taylor and Travis, but they're engaged. There we go, thank you. Thank you for that. That'll be the end of the dad pun jokes today. we can tell that they're spending more time at the sites that they go to, which gives us a sense that they're more engaged with the sites. And you have probably encountered this personally in your own searches. Sometimes you do a search and you click on something and you go, oh, that's not what I want. And you click back and oh, that's what I want. And now, because we do this fan out and because we're able to give you this sort of an overview type of thing, and you're maybe a bit more better grounded about what it is you really want now when you did this search. I had to search for like snow socks for my car, right? I don't know what a snow sock is, right? Wear them because the car can't take chains. And so I was doing these searches and now I understand like, oh, it's like a sock you put on your tire. And then when I went to the sites, I was much more engaged with the sites that I was going to rather than, oh, now I know what a snow sock is. Now I got to bump back because I got to go back and understand more about what's going from there. So that's why we think there's this more engagement that's happening. Now, the other thing that we have out now is AI mode. And as I said, people are having these expectations. I can't see anything out there because of the lights. Otherwise, I would ask you, have any of you used any kind of tool that allows you to get sort of generated results that are out there? Well, I'm going to try to see there. And I already know you have. I mean, everybody has, right? Except apparently my son, one of my sons is like, no, I don't like that. I'm like, are you even a child? But anyway, no, he's not a child, but he's younger. Anyway. And then I think he lies. So, but you have these tools that are becoming the norm that people are really used to or that they prefer. And they're like, I would just rather start here. It's like you have this really cool experience and I want to just begin there and I want that to be my experience. In the same way that maybe if you search for images, you're like, I'd rather just get images or I'd rather just do news searches or whatever. So that's why we have AI mode that's there. And it allows you to get that kind of more conversational, more chat-oriented type of search with it from there. And then it really helps with this type of thing. So now I could tell a story, but this story will be on topic, I promise. So this is not an uncommon thing. Someone does a search, pancake, right? Pancake. And this goes back to a different kind of metaphor. Like there's a guy named Brian Pinkerton, and he created web crawler. And back in the day, he used to use the term like travel, but we can do the same thing. He said it'd be like, it's as if you walked into a library and you said to the librarian, pancake. And the librarian would be like, okay, you want to tell me a bit more about your pancake needs? And they would have a conversation. We get you some related information and go with it from there. But with search engines, we've not been able to have that conversation. You just clicked in, you said pancake, and we're like, okay, and we have to infer things. Like maybe we see a corresponding spike in searches for pancake and content for pancake because it was pancake eating content. We're like, okay, you're probably interested in news about pancake, and we can show you things about the pancake eating contest. Or maybe we can understand that you're in a location where people are desperately trying to find this really, really cool pancake store restaurant, right? And so we're like, okay, that's probably what they mean. Or maybe you had just done a previous query like, how do I cook eggs? And how do I cook bacon? And now you've moved on to pancake. And it's like, okay, let's show them some pancake recipes. Like we're trying to have the conversation even though we're not. That's what's really, to me, so powerful about what you're seeing happen with these changes with the AI generation and responses and so on. It's like you can have the conversation. You can go through and say, hey, I'm looking to do this. And then you go, no, but what about that? And it understands like what it just talked to you about. And it also, you as a person maybe feel more encouraged to have the conversation and it can go with it from there. It's not like you're constantly feeling like you're starting over from the beginning. Now, we are testing this other thing, WebGuide. Remember I mentioned to you that some people I like blue links. I like blue links, me personally. But sometimes, like maybe, are there better ways we could present the blue links? And WebGuide is one of those ways where you do a search, and rather than the AI doing the sort of the chat kind of summary, the AI is used to sort of organize and figure out, well, you just did a search. Can I put these links into different kinds of categories and give you a sense of what's going on out there? So in this case, I think it was like a guide for solo travel in Japan. And rather than saying, well, Yeah, you can go on a solo trip in Japan. Here are things to keep in mind. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. It's like, yeah, you want to go on a trip to Japan? Well, here's some blogs about solo travel. Here's some advice written from that perspective. And it can divide it all up into different ways, but it's really blue link type of stuff. So that's one of the experiments we have now. Right now, we're showing it within the web tab, which doesn't mean it's replacing the web tab. It just means if you did the experiment, that was a nice place for us to tuck it into if you want to play with it. You can switch it off. And then it'll be moving into the all results area if you're in the experiment. And we'll see where the format goes, but I really like it for a lot of times when I actually want to get blue links, but in a more sort of organized and easy to digest kind of fashion. All right, so we're on to takeaways. So, all right, does anybody feel like this right now? Right? Yeah, I gotta get me some GEO, or I guess it's AEO, or whatever. All right, so first of all, if you don't know what GEO is, it's like the latest acronym. Like I can't keep track each day, there's a different one. But SEO, search engine optimization, GEO, generative engine optimization. By the way, if you could dig it out when I was like in 2010, back when people were then panicking then, I was like, you know, SEO doesn't mean you get into the blue links on Google. SEO means you understand how people search for content, and then you understand how to have your content there. And it could be everything from people asking a question to a voice device to people just opening up something on their phone or whatever. So the basic things have not changed. Good SEO is good GEO or AEO, AIEO, LLM SEO, or LMNOPEO. So they're all fine. What I'm trying to say is don't panic. What you've been doing for search engines generally, and you may have thought of as SEO, is still perfectly fine and is still the things that you should be doing. And especially because it's the next part, good SEO is really having good content for people. And you can go through and people will tell you things like, well, you got to make sure you have the vector thingy that's doing the whatever to the passage, and did you get the and it's just like this of things that I've been reading and going, oh, my heart breaks for anybody trying to understand this stuff. It's like, are you saying right things in a clear way that people can understand? Cool. Like that's just for people. Are you saying right about things that are unique or interesting? Cool, that's good for people. And all we try to do is understand how our signals can align with things that are good for people. So instead of trying, it's just like the puck and you're trying to skate to it and all that, whatever, right? I don't know. I'm not a hockey player, but my son's learning about hockey now. So he's like, yeah, I'm a hockey player. Anyway, I'm going to dive on my detour again. If you don't want to go wherever the puck is, or you want to be there where it's coming, you know what I'm saying. Basically, you want to get ahead of where things are at. And so if you're trying to figure out what are all these different signals that the search engines are using, or now the AI search engines are using, and do we need to do this thing or do that thing, you're missing the entire point. You should already be over here having the kind of content that all those things are simply trying to align to, including mentions. Like, now you got to get mentions. You want everyone to mention you. It's like, you know how to get mentioned? You're like really cool, right? I mean, you have really good stuff. That's what gets you mentioned. So you can go and try to figure out ways to manipulate it all, or you can focus your attention on doing the good things for people and figure that these things will follow with it from there. So that's more important than that, really. I mean, you can put them together, but it's really good people. So, but then people are still like, but still, can't you just give us some tips? Just like one tip, like, is there a meta tag? No. We did a blog post in May. You can look it up, but I'll summarize it for you. And it's like, look, unique, valuable content for people. Unique, valuable content for people. Strong emphasis on the unique part, right? If your content is simply explaining like, you know, I don't know, like, something that's super, super commodity that no one's originated. There are lots of sources of that sort of thing. So it's the unique aspect that's important. Have a great page experience. That's really important. Make sure people get to your page and they don't go, I hate this page. I hate this page. I'm going to go on a little side soapbox. One of the things I find most frustrating, because I really do like the open web, and my first inclination is to write blog posts when I have time, which I don't, and then I feel bad. But the web experience the beauty of the web experience is it can be so different, and everybody has their own way that they want to present things, right? But it's also inconsistent to people who are coming off of, say, social platforms. I know exactly what I'm getting on Instagram. I'm not on TikTok, thank God. For your benefit, perhaps mine. Or I know what I'm getting if I'm on Threads or whatever. It's like everything has the same kind of format, and I know what I'm getting, and I'm never getting surprised by something that comes at me. And then I end up on a web page, and it's like, here's some text, here's some things, here's some more stuff, here's some things over here, here's some other things. Like, where's the thing I was looking for? And I'm not having a great page experience, which is not me saying that every web page should look all the same. But you, I think, really should remember people are not only coming to your site for the first time and trying to get oriented in this new place. It's like, have you ever been to a new city? Some of you are in a new city, and you come off and you're like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where to go or where to eat or what's happening. And then like by the end of the third day, you're like, yeah, you can go over there. The restaurant's over here. I'm like practically born here. So yeah, that's me all the time. So thinking about when people come into your site for the first time, this is really important. Like, are they going to have a good experience and feel good and understand what's going on? Because that's some of the things we're trying to understand too when we're figuring out how to show what's most relevant. Can we access your content? That's important. If you don't like something showing in the search results, you can use the same preview controls that we've had before. If you're really looking for those extra little tips, like how does this new world change things for me? Well, maybe if you're only doing text, start thinking about doing more images or videos and so on, because that leads to that multimodal stuff that I talked about. But also understand the full value of your visits, because traffic could be changing. Some people might see traffic go up. Some people might see some traffic start to descend. But that's not necessarily getting, I'm going ahead of myself, focusing on the value. Because remember what I said, we're finding that people are having more engaged in the places they're going to. And you do get these anecdotes where people are going, well, I'm getting these like really great leads or these really great conversions from people who are coming to me when I can tell that they're coming off of AI-oriented stuff. And it can relate to that sort of thing. It may be more valuable people. But you don't know that if you can't measure it. So that's where SiteKit comes in. Actually, I'm trying to figure out things to say that would be relevant. And one, I think the great thing when you're thinking about measuring is that if you use WordPress, we have an entirely new free tool that you can use. We've had it out there. We're coming up on our 6th anniversary. Lots of people use it. And one of the things it does is it allows you to figure out how to measure the visits coming to your site and understand what's important to you. You can define measurements. You can figure out the key ones that are out. It's all super, super simple to go through. And it puts it all into your WordPress dashboard. You don't have to go off into some other type of thing. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. There are people at the booth who will tell you more about it. It can figure out things like conversions and activities. And if you're not using Sidekick, I don't care. I mean, just figure out some system to understand what's happening on your site and what people are doing, because that's really important beyond just people came. People coming and how many people come, you want them to be doing something. And if you haven't tried, we also have this thing called Redo Revenue Manager, which is a really easy way for you to plug it into your site and build up newsletter subscribers. Hey, thanks for coming. I want to make you a subscriber, and now I can have a direct connection with you. When I would run my own sites, that was my #1 goal. I never wanted you to come to the site without leaving some kind of way for us to reach out to you in the future. I wanted you to be an email subscriber to us, #1. If you weren't going to do that, I wanted you to follow us on social. I definitely did not want it to be that you came in, left, and we never saw you again. You can ask for contributions, custom surveys, offer paywall content, and so on. So I'm going to end on this. And then I've got about 5 minutes for Q&A, and then I will leave here and I will stand in that hallway and take more questions if you have them. But I will have to get off the stage. But this is like my big boss, Liz Reed. She's the head of Google Search. And she's like, we did a blog post, and we said, like, this is the thing I thought most relevant part, I thought most important, that we're committed to highlighting high quality content on the web and continue to refine how we do it. That is a big deal for us to say. I was not at Google for most of my career. I was outside the company and I'd worked on my own. And one of the things I learned as I went into a big company is sort of this second thing that I was doing, which I'd never planned to do, by the way. I just kind of retired and they're like, you want to do something cool like with search? I'm like, yeah, it'll be interesting. Well, at first I was like, I don't know. I'm building Lego and organizing Lego. And Lego's kind of my life right now. And my wife's like, you got to go do something else because I can't hear you talk about Lego for 2 months and follow me around the house. So I'm like, okay. Well, they were asking if I'd be interested in doing something else. And I was like, yeah, it'd be very interesting to go work for a search engine and understand behind the scenes how they operate and how you might make improvements and how you might bring feedback back. And so that's why I ended up joining. But one of the things I learned also was like, nobody says anything in like blog posts unless 1 billion people have all gone through and said, this is a good thing that we want to commit to. That is a big deal. That is someone saying, we want the open web to be successful, that we want to make sure that there are ways that we can highlight this content, that we see that as part of it. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. But that is it. You all are using a tool that allows you to create content for the web. The web is really cool. It's a great thing. And we want to continue to ensure that we're supporting it and that it carries on with the work that you're all doing. And with that, we'll go to some questions. If you don't have any questions, we won't. Yeah, thank you. Oh, wow.
Hey there, Danny.
Hi.
Thank you for coming. I am from Portland, so if you're getting donuts, please go to Blue Star or Mochi Nut and not Voodoo.
Someone
Voodoo
told
is
me
overrated.
that. Someone told me that, so now I will have to put that on my list for the next stop. So I would definitely do it, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
There's a stop in the airport for Blue Star.
Well, I'm going to the airport, so I will do that. Thank you.
I have so many questions, but I think the one that's most relevant for most people is for content for people that are producing content and for people that are advising people who are producing content on the web who are good intentioned, what are 3 things that you think that they should stop doing that are myths?
Stop thinking you have to write to a word count. You don't. Write as long or as short as you want. Stop thinking that there is some specific content thing you need to do for Google. Like, I must put the author on the, no. Like, stop thinking you need to put on your page that it was expert reviewed, because why would you believe that? Like, it's a myth. Like, there's reasons why it's helpful if you have content that has expertise. Maybe you do want an expert to review it, and maybe for your own visitors, you want them to understand that it was reviewed by an expert. But if you're just doing that because you think, like, we cared, like, no. And like, more generally, I would just encourage you to not get lost in the details. Every time someone asks me a question, they're like, should I do this? And I'll say, why are you doing that? And it tends to be like, well, I heard that Google wants. And it's like, and I totally get that. I totally get that. But what we want more than anything else is to help people get to content that's helpful for people. And everything we're doing is aligning with it. So if you're doing that because you think it's great for your visitors, then you're doing what we want. And that's your starting place with it from there. Thank you. Now I got to get a donut.
Hi, Danny.
Hi.
Great talk. My name is
you.
Christina Hills, and what I do is I teach WordPress to non-techie entrepreneurs who they're building their first website. And I do tell them to install SiteKit. But what would be, for a non-techie person, what would be your recommendation that they should do on a particular page, like the important things? Like you mentioned multimodal, like having images, is that important? Like, is that important?
So this goes back to what I was saying about the people. What they should do on the page is think about somebody coming to their page and what would that person want? That's it. So recipes are a good example, right? Somebody coming to a recipe page wants the recipe typically. And to get to the recipe, they have to run a hurdle, right? Like, there's a recipe, I'm going to get it to you, and if you really want to get to it fast, I'm going to give you a really long, and I'm going to get in trouble here, everybody takes it out of context, but I'll give you a long table of contents. You can click on that and jump. Like, so that was your first hurdle, but if you didn't see that, and that table of contents will be this long, so I can't even figure out where the recipe part of it was, and then I'm going to go through this, I'm going to do that, and it's like, this is why it gets to be a joke when people are talking about it. And it's like, just write it the way you would write it if you were coming to the first time. Like, hey, I got a recipe here. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little bit about it briefly. And I'm going to give you the recipe and the instructions. And I'm going to give you some background about my life story if you're interested. Because some people are. Some people want to know about it. And also, I'm going to show you some pictures of how it was produced. Or I'm going to show you those pictures as part of the instructions because it makes sense to me to do it. You can have your table of contents. We don't care. That's not, so like every time I mention that, then people go, he said you can't have table of contents or you'll get spam ranked on Google. It's like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, for people coming to a page, if you've done that type of thing, it is typically a sign that maybe you've written this giant page in part because you've heard from the wisdom is Google wants some giant page or whatever. We don't. We just want you to make a page however you want to do it for people coming to your site. So that's what I would tell your non-technical person is like, don't get lost in I've got to do certain things because the search engine or Google wants it.
Right. They all get hung up on that. They think they have to do all these different things, when really what you're saying is appeal to humans, and you'll do well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. A million times yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm definitely at my time, so I'm going to take yours and hope that I don't get in trouble for doing that, and then we'll have to stop because
Well, I hope you
it's
don't get
flashing.
in trouble either. My name is Angie Drake. I have a website where we write great content for people called NotYourAverageAmerican.com about responsible travel in the Americas.
Great.
And my click-through rate has tanked since you guys have started doing AI review.
Right.
What are you going to do to compensate?
Are you seeing the decoupling thing?
I want to know what you're going to do to compensate bloggers who don't get clicks on their website because people are getting the information they need in the AI review.
Right.
And I love AI. I love AI. I love Google, but you guys, my click-through rate has just gone.
Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. I'm not going to say it at all. Can I just ask, are you seeing a rise in impressions and a drop in clicks? Or you're just seeing your
I'm seeing I have seen a rise in impressions. We're getting much more visitors. When everyone was complaining last year about how Google had ruined their websites, we were seeing an uptick in visitors. So we write really good content. We're authoritative.
Sorry, you're seeing more visitors now?
We're seeing more visitors than we were a year ago, but our click-through rate is down.
I mean, you're getting...
I understand, but click-through rate is something that sponsors are looking at.
Okay, so a bunch of things, and I'll try to come back to that. So, first of all, that thing I said from what Liz was saying, I would hope will be encouraging to you, that we know we're going to have changes. And we know people are going to be seeing changes. And some of those changes are going to be changes that make sense. One thing I often talk about is it used to be like when the Super Bowl would happen, people would do is search for what times the Super Bowl happened. And all these different newspapers would all literally compete to be number one for it. And at some point, we just switched and said the Super Bowl is at 3 p.m. Or it's always at 3 p.m. Stop searching. Or 3, whatever. I don't know what time the Super Bowl's at. See, I'd have to search for it again. And they lost traffic because we directly showed you what time the Super Bowl was happening. And relatively unapologetic about that. People want to know from the search engine certain factual information, and they don't expect that they then have to jump into a page that explains them 10 paragraphs on the history of the Super Bowl when it started. I don't want to take away from what you're saying, though. When people are producing really unique, valuable, helpful information, and it's, we want to ensure that we're rewarding that. And we should be rewarding that. Because if you're not rewarding it, then that information's there, and like I said, at the very base level, then we don't get to keep doing what we're trying to be doing. If you just think like the whole base level is we just want to be a company making money. But at a better level, there's a lot of people who are like, we actually want the web to be thriving. So, but there are going to be bumps along the way, and there's going to be all these changes happening, so we need to understand that more. So the feedback, what you're saying, it's not lost. We've heard those sorts of things. It's one reason that we're talking about, think about the, I really am going to get kicked off. Think about the measurement aspect with it from there. We will keep looking at what else we can be doing to kind of help people. I'm actually glad you're getting more people that are coming to you. That's a good thing. And I'm going to have to get kicked out. And that's not an excuse with it from there. But what I would say is it's well understood, and you are not alone in people who are saying, there's this big revolution happening, and we can see that it's helpful for users. We can see it's helpful for search engines. We want to go along for the ride. And we do want you to go along for that ride too, and it's still part of what we're going to be figuring out. So, thank you.